The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you.
Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees have taken their seat on the chair of Moses. Therefore, do and observe all things whatsoever they tell you, but do not follow their example. For they preach, but they do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens hard to carry and lay them on other people's shoulders, but they will not lift a finger to move them. All their works are performed to be seen. They widen their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. They love places of honor at banquets and seats of honor in synagogues, greetings in the marketplace, and the salutation, 'Rabbi.' As for you, do not be called Rabbi. You have but one teacher, and you are all followers. And you are all brothers. Call no one on earth your father. You have but one Father in heaven. Do not be called master. You have but one master, the Christ. The greatest among you must be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, but whoever humbles himself will be exalted." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
There's a very interesting corollary to this last command that Jesus gives, the last statement actually. The greatest among you must be your servant. Notice what that requires. It requires, first of all, that you and I look inside to discover our own greatness. And then whatever we discover as our greatness must be placed at the service of others. Most people who do that exercise do the first part very, very well or very poorly. In other words, some people look into themselves and discover greatness and they boast about it. They use it to advance their own power and prestige and influence and so on and so forth. Others look inside and fail to see their own greatness. And so they withdraw. They withdraw into kind of wimpy nothingness and don't, as Jesus says elsewhere, let their light shine. So I think what Jesus is saying here is we have to, first of all, be aware of our greatness and recognize that the greatness isn't something that we ourselves have achieved. No matter what our achievements are, no matter what we might point to in our past lives as achievements, as reasons to boast, we have to say, you know, the root of that is not something that I did. The root of that greatness is what the Lord has done in me and for me. And then, as he says, place that greatness to the service of one another. And that can be done no matter where we are, no matter where we are called to be, no matter what our life situation puts us into, that we can discover our greatness and place it at the service of others. Even here, perhaps for many of us at what would be considered the end of the line, or as I saw in a plaque in a similar place, heaven's waiting room. Well, our job here is to take the giftedness of our entire lives and put it at one another's service in whatever way we can. Sometimes that's merely by prayer. I won't say merely. Prayer has to be at the heart of it. Or sometimes it's the ways that we can offer small acts of self-giving, of charity for one another. Now, our saint today was one of the most complex people in Christian history. And nobody can quite get a handle on the multiplicity of the facets of his personality. He could not be categorized or labeled this or that as far as what he did and even who he was in his mission. And he lived just about halfway between the time of Jesus and our own time. So a lot of saints, a lot of very significant people who are in that time period of sort of like the fulcrum of our Christian history. But he, I think, underlying those many facets, there was a core of simplicity. And that core was the burning love of God. Not his burning love for God, but the burning love of God for him and for all people. That was the core that fired, that energized, that gave power to everything that he said and did. And in many ways, he was very controversial. And in many ways, lots of people might say to this or that about St. Bernard, hey, wait a minute. But that's okay. But the fact of the matter is, he had tremendous influence, an influence that extends to our own day in many ways. I'll leave you with just one statement that struck me as I was reading his life this morning. In one of his letters to a nun, a Benedictine, in a very strict convent, who was contemplating leaving the convent, and he said to her, take as your model the 5 wise and 5 foolish virgins in Jesus' parable. If you are one of the foolish virgins, you need the convent. You need the community life. You need the challenge and the strength that comes from living in community. You need what others in the community have to give, even if it's challenge. But then he said, if you are a wise virgin, the community needs you. You need to be able to strengthen the others in the community. You need to form a part of a cohesive whole that is truly dedicated to the Lord, so that everybody may benefit from it. I think those are very interesting words to each one of us, wherever we are. We need to be where we are. Why? Because where we are is where God has raised up others to help us, to strengthen us, to support us, even to challenge us. And at the same time, the others, the community of where we are, needs us for its own strength, its own help, to be a productive part of the community.